Once upon a time, this the memory. It's like synergy. Life the hardest teacher y'all could ever get the master. Get a test first, then y'all get that lesson after. Steve's never stressing them G's.
What's going on, everybody? I'd like to welcome y'all back to Sync Music Mondays. That's right, Sync Music Mondays every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We are music licensing in the coolest form. Shout out to all the listeners on a global basis, man. Thank you for everybody that taps in, whether that's Africa, Russia, Argentina. You know, we just appreciate everyone taking the time out of their day to actually get educated. Financial literacy for your music to help you take it to the next level. And as always, going to tap to the word of the day. The word of the day, something motivational, inspirational. I live it, I preach it, I teach it to help you guys get to the next level. And I actually tweeted this today. So I'm going to just pull this up because, I really like this. It was something that vibed with my spirit. It says, you're always going to live at the level of your thinking. I like that, right? It says you're always to live at the level of your thinking. A lot of times, Common had this rap that he said before. He said, a lot of times people let the block the mind. So on your life experiences, depending upon your knowledge base, that can either enhance you or that can cripple you. So I always encourage musicians, knowledge is power. That's a statement that we hear a lot of times. It could be labeled as cliche, but it's very habitual in nature, right? It's like we got to be open to new experiences, new people. I always say collaboration is greater than competition. Pushing it forward, constantly building with like-minded people. And that's important, you know what I'm saying? And that is the word of the day. But for today, we got a dope guest on the show, man. This brother's solid, man, 10 toes down. He's a composer. He's a writer. He's gotten placements with a lot of different outlets, man, whether that's Sprite, Universal Production Music, BMG Production Music. I mean, the list goes on and on. Then we also want to get into I Like That Production Music. It is no other than my brother from another mother, Eclipse Darkness. What's up, King?
Yes, sir. Appreciate that introduction, King. Yes, sir. Blessed to be here. God is good.
Yes, brother. Yes, man.
Yes,
well, we happy to hear you, today on the show, brother. It's a pleasure. And
thank y'all for having me.
Yes, definitely, brother. We're going to build. We're going to have a fruitful conversation, man. So, I gave the people like a kind of brief description of you, but can you tell the people in your own words, like yourself, who is Eclipse Darkness?
Yeah, absolutely. You said it. I'm an actor, songwriter. I'm an artist. I'm the founder and creative director of I Like That Music. And pretty much been doing music my entire life. Graduated from the Arts Magnet, Booker T. Washington Performing and Visual Arts, one of the top, performing arts high school in the world. And man, from there, just continue to pursue music and acting, but more so music. And everybody knows me as, the Sprite artist, brand ambassador, and just a lot of brand partnerships, with companies like Hennessy, BMG, Universal Production Music, and just, making a name for myself in the sync, production music world.
Oh, dope, man. I'm going to backtrack a little bit. I'm interested in knowing how did you get that name, Eclipse Darkness? Like, what does that name mean and how did you get that name?
Yeah, so it's definitely a story behind it for sure. The eclipse part came from always overshadowing and standing out amongst other competition when I would do a lot of talent shows and showcases and things like that. I got that name early on in my career, just from somebody mentioning it or making a statement. I'm like, man, you always eclipsing everybody. You always winning, So I was like, I like that, I'm gonna stick with it. I like that name. So Eclipse stuck, and I continued to grow with that name. And me being a marketing guru person, I went ahead and added the darkness to it for SEO purposes. So that made it easy for the world to discover me and find me when they were looking for, the one and only Eclipse.
Wow. Well, I like that, man. And I like when, there's like a story behind the name, because a lot of times people always ask, they say, hey, how'd you get your name? So that's really dope, man. That means something,
Yes, sir. Appreciate it. And then that's how pretty much I Like That came about, as well. I did a song, a single with Jay White did it, and you know, the song was called "Oh I Like That," and from that point on, it was just like people naturally say I like that when they hear something they like. So I said, let me kind of brand that phrase and you know, tag that thing up and use that for my tagline along with Eclipse Darkness, and that's how I created "Oh I Like That" music.
Dope, man. I'm gonna backtrack a little bit. You mentioned something before. For people that are not too privy or
Mm-hmm.
technologically savvy, you said SEO, so search engine optimization. How
Yes,
did
sir.
using darkness help with the search engine optimization for your name?
Yeah, it helped tremendously. I didn't get lost in the sauce when people would type in Eclipse and you come across the Eclipse car by Mitsubishi or the
Mhm.
Eclipse gum or just eclipses that are happening or have happened or about to happen within the world. So it definitely helped tremendously and allowed me to be intentional and uh, make it easy for my fan base or anybody who wanted to, you know, look for me and search for my works and find out, you know, who I was. If they typed in Eclipse Darkness, that was the only thing that popped up. So it definitely helped and saved me a lot of trouble, and probably brought a lot of blessings my way on the discoverability part.
I love that, man. I love that because that speaks volume to marketing 101, right? Being able to distinguish yourself amongst all the other things out there that people might, your name might get lumped in with. So I think that's a gem within it.
Yes,
You know what I'm saying? Like even for all these,
absolutely.
yeah, marketing, branding yourself, positioning yourself in a way where you stand out. You know,
Yep, that's it.
so
Position is
yeah.
key.
Yeah, that's fire, King. That's fire. So let me ask you something. So how did you get started in music? Like how did this start for you?
Basically, just like, you know, some of the stories we always hear, being around it in the family. I grew up in the church, so you
Yeah.
know, a lot
Okay.
of lot
Pentecostal. What type of church? Pentecostal, Christian. What type of church?
Christian church. Yep, Baptist
Okay.
Christian. And Mount Zion to be exact.
Okay.
And my mom, my grandmother, aunts, cousins, all part of the choir. You know, singing, vocally talented, and it just rubbed off. And I continued to pursue music from that point on, and it developed, and I moved towards, you know, hip hop and things of that nature and other genres. But that's pretty much the root and the backbone of all of it.
Got you, man. Now let me ask you this question because I get a lot of musicians that come on the show, and they grew up in spiritually based households. So like last episode we had Tina Torres on here. She spoke about how she grew up in a Pentecostal um church. Her family was very much so into that. I myself am a preacher's kid, so I guess my question for you is what was
Mm-hmm.
that experience like where you had this religious foundation, but you also love hip hop? Because I know sometimes, depending on the household, some people can be more liberal, right? Some parents can
Mm-hmm.
be more accepting of the art form and say, hey, this is art. And then some parents can be like, oh, that's the devil, baby. We don't want that in this
Right.
household. So how was your family accepting of this, like for you?
Yeah. They were very receptive, and supportive. You know, of course, my mom, she was all for it as long as I wasn't, you know, out here promoting anything crazy, no nonsense, drugs, degrading women, or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Then she was like, you know, hey, I'm all for it, and that really helped. You know, the growth and development of my music with it already being clean and things like that, commercial music to transition into production music and the film world. So yeah. They were very supportive, very supportive. I never really was the an artist to want to get off into the street music, you know. Anyway, so it was like, nah, that's not my cup of tea. Um, Even though at a point in time, you know, in my life, I experienced, you know, some hard times and was around, you know, the streets and things like that. And a lot of people don't know I grew up in Dallas Rupert Circle projects for a little bit, right? But I didn't let that influence me to, you know, behave in such a way or influence my music to talk about certain things. Although I, would talk about situations, but it was in a clean way, clean form.
Right. I love that, man. I love that. And I'm gonna be honest with you because same for me. Like I grew up in South Jamaica, Queens. So especially in the 80s, right? So that was the prime time of the crack era. So if
Yeah.
anybody's familiar with that, that's when we had a lot of narcotics in and out of our neighborhoods. I remember
Yep.
going to school and walking in like crack vials crumbling under our sneakers going to school, and all kinds of stuff we had, whether that be police corruption, systemic racism, all these things we had to deal with in that neighborhood. But I say all that to say it's commendable when you can come from that type of environment and instead of condoning that behavior, you actually try to level up and, show people, hey, listen, just because you come from a negative environment doesn't mean that your situation has to be your final destination. And I think that, you know what I'm saying? And that's where the battle comes. I know right now, I'm not too sure if you're familiar, but D1, he made some comments recently, Rick Ross and Jim Jones, a lot of those guys.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I think that's commendable, when you mention that, because it's like, you show people you can level up, at the end of the day. You don't have to be a statistic, right? Just because you grow up in an environment that has gangs, violence, all these things, it's either you can elevate or separate, right? So, you got options there. So that's dope, man. That's commendable,
Yeah, appreciate that, King. Yeah, definitely looking to, continue to spread that information, man. And I'm at a stage now in my career where I'm wanting to make that known and more public, so that it can, help and inspire others.
Yeah, definitely, man. And it's like, I listen to your music. I had checked it out before bringing you on as a guest, and I really liked it. To be perfectly honest with you, I couldn't even tell that you did not use profanity in your music, right? Because it's just that good.
Right.
And for me, like I personally, like I had made that transition because I used to curse like a sailor, man, like every other word, right? And then what happened with me was the birth of my daughter changed that, right? Because I remember, you know what I'm saying?
I can relate.
You know what I'm saying? So my boy Drew, he used to produce me, but he also used to like engineer. So I remember one day we were in the studio, and I'm just going at it. And he stopped the session. He's like, "Damn, man, it's a lot of cursing, bro." Right? And we from the hood, right? So for him to say that to me, I'm like, damn, maybe it is, right? But then when I found out I was going to be a father, I was like, all right, do I really want my kid listening to me, like just articulate myself this way, especially when you're a teacher. There's so many words you can use. Like, do you really have to be reduced to this, for the sake of a song, right? And after a while, it's not even shock value. It just becomes redundant. So that's when I had made that choice to pivot, and not use that in my music. And I think that's the great thing we could talk to, because especially with production music and sing, 9 times out of 10, man, if you got to go back and clean up a song, there's a million uses in, it takes away from the essence of the song. You know what I'm saying?
Does.
So can you elaborate on that? You know what I'm saying? Like with the creation of your music and stuff,
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. Like I'm very intentional when I start creating music, especially for sing or scoring or whatever the case may be. I'm very intentional, and I understand that, hey, if I want this to be experienced and to have some sort of impact on a wide range of audience, then I need to make sure, right off the bat, hey, it's clean, it's vibey, people can relate. It'll help bring the visual, to life. So it's like, because if I include vulgar language, like you said, having to edit and cut it's going to take away from the whole vibe and the feel. So all the way through from start to finish, I want it to be, track. I want it to be vocals, cadence. I want it to be, inflection on words, energy, depth, texture, throughout with no interruption. And I feel like having to clean things up, it does that. It interrupts, the flow of the art, too much. So you're absolutely right, man. Like I don't even think twice. And anytime I work with anybody, I say, hey, make sure it's clean. We trying to be on Disney. We trying to be on, BET, you name it, Fox, whatever. So make sure it's clean, make sure it fits the brief, and it delivers for sure.
Yeah, definitely. That's a fact. That's a major gem for all the musicians out there. Like, definitely be mindful of that. Like, when you're making music and you want to get placed, like, don't do yourself a disservice by using too much profanity.
Right.
Also name dropping brands. Be cognizant of that. Just try to keep your music like a blank canvas. So it could pretty much be ambiguous, right? If Coca-Cola wants to use it, they'll pick it up. If Pepsi wants to use it, and the only time you really want to name drop a brand is if it's specifically for that brand, right? But if you're creating, just remain ambiguous. That way you can maneuver that song any way you want,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and now that's facts, because like one of my things is, since I'm a Sprite artist and brand ambassador, I can still have my music placed, with other brands, right? But it'd be silly for me I can't be out with a can of Pepsi, taking pictures and stuff like that, because that wouldn't work. But you're absolutely right, being conscious of that, and not limiting yourself, so that you have more flexibility. And I take that same approach when it comes to working with major production music companies and labels, like Sony, Universal, Warner Chappell, etc.
Definitely, man. I want to talk about pretty much like your sync experience. Like, do you remember the first track that you got placed? And if so, like, could you describe that experience for you? Like, how did that feel?
Yeah. My very first placement was in the movie 411 with Nicolas Cage. And that, I was not expecting it. I had just got into sync in the production music world, and for that to be, my very first placement, there was no doubt in my mind that this is what I wanted to do, for the rest of my career. Of course, still, drop and release things mainstream, but making that a priority was definitely, my goal from that first experience. But yeah, I definitely got in working with another music library company, and working with First Com Music. They were the first ones to bring me on board, and things just took off from there. I mean, it was crazy. I got a few placements within a year. Universal was flying me out to perform at some of their events in Vegas in front of different execs. And yeah, after that, things just took off and continued to take off. And I look up, 6 years later, and we still doing crazy big things, crazy placement numbers, and the relationships have strengthened, and I've developed and made new relationships, and it's just been a beautiful thing, man. The community, since I've gotten into sync, the community of composers and writers and artists that I've met and been able to work with have been a blessing, bro. And like, just even speaking to you, and potentially working with you, like, I think is going to be amazing, with what we can put together. So yeah, it's definitely been a blessing for sure. And yeah, 411, that was my first placement in that movie. And yeah, I still can't believe it, to this day, but it definitely changed my life for sure.
That's fire, bro. It's amazing, man. We definitely gonna build too. We definitely gonna connect offline.
Oh yeah, got to.
Yeah, man. It's like you said. I tell people all the time, collaboration is greater than competition. So having a mentality is like, listen, if one person has a hammer, you got a screwdriver, I could make something happen.
Yep.
So I think that's the dope thing about building bridges and meeting new people. It's like you always get a fresh perspective, and you always different ways to get things done. So yeah, that's amazing, man. That's definitely amazing.
Yeah, appreciate that, King.
Yeah, of course, man. I was going to ask you, like, what do you think are the stark differences between an artist getting a conventional record deal as opposed to an artist going down the music licensing path? Because those two separate paths. Sometimes they can intertwine, like if an artist gets on a major label and that label is getting those placements. But some artists say, hey, you know what, I don't want to deal with the music industry side in that way. I just want to be independent and do licensing. So can you describe the differences that you notice between the two?
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. I tell people the production music world and like sync is really, to me, in my opinion, the film business, right? So like I made a conscious and intentional decision to pivot and navigate majority from the music business and focus on the film business. Just because, you know, there's a lot of politics, you know, in everything that we do, but really in the music business that I didn't really want to deal with. You know, I have more freedom being in the film business, right? And um, being an independent artist, I'm able to control a lot, right? And do whatever I want when I want versus, you know, with the label, having to, you know, fall within certain plans and um, marketing schedules and things like that that they may you know have laid out. So I've you know, I've been on both sides, and I can say that I truly love and embrace and am all for and would recommend others to pursue more so the film business, right, versus the music business. But at any rate, it's all the music business. But when you're dealing with sync, you're creating intentionally for, you know, visual. So that's why I say the film business for sure. Um, when I did America's Got Talent, you know, they offered me a deal. You know, I said thank you for the opportunity, but no, because the money wasn't where I thought it should be, you know, based on my value and what I was worth at the time. Sat down with Atlantic Records. They've offered, you know, $1 million plus deal. Had to deny that too, but mainly because of the terms and things that were within the agreement, you know, that I wouldn't be dealing with focused on sync. It's like, nah, I don't want to have to worry about, you know, my image with this and this and that. And with sync, I love that I could do whatever genre, all kinds of music, can stay behind the
Mm-hmm.
scenes if I want to. So I said, you know what, I'm gonna show these people you can do both and use sync production music as a way to fund and market my um, Eclipse Darkness mainstream side, right? And just kind of
Mm-hmm.
combine the two brands and use my sync production music as a way to gain leverage for my Eclipse Darkness brand partnership mainstream music, you know, brand, and just kind of merge the two together and uplift both of them at the same time. So that's pretty much been my plan, and you know, it's been working, and I have so much freedom. I can work with whoever I want to work with, you know, based on the agreements and the contracts. I'm not tied down, you know, to anyone, and I love that I can create works and make it exclusive if I want to this particular company, and can also do it for another company. With a record deal, you can't do that, right? You know,
Mm-hmm.
so I didn't want anything to hold me back, and it allows me also to help other creatives and artists, which is like my main mission. And my goal is to get as many other artists and creatives as many placements as possible. So that's like my dream before I leave this earth. Is that's what my mission is, right? So being with the label and signed and things like that, it would hinder that. So I went ahead and, you know, took a different route. And it's been working. It's been working out. God's been showing out. He's sending blessings my way. I've been able to bless others. And sync has changed my life. And like you mentioned earlier, things really snapped in when I had my daughter in 2018. She definitely brought out the beast in me. You know, it was like, yo, I turned into a whole nother man. And, you know, yeah, I thank God for it, because or like that music probably wouldn't be here, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Because yeah, I left my job when she was born. I left my job, took out my 401k money, and it completely invested in myself, and just started taking a chance on myself and took a risk that definitely paid off. So this would be what,
That's dope.
year 6? Yeah, year 6 of being an entrepreneur, self-employed.
That is amazing, man. And you know, I love that because you know, it's a scripture where it says, you know, faith. Well, they talk about mustard seed faith, right? But then they also
Mm-hmm.
talk about, you know, faith without good works is dead. So I think a lot of times, you know, taking that step, right? Because we speak life, right? You know, we speak positivity, but our
Yep.
actions off that often have to follow that, right? So, you know, the fact
Yes.
that you took that leap of faith, you know, that's commendable as well because a lot of people they'll verbalize what they want, but they won't take physical action, right?
Yes.
You know, so you know,
Yeah,
taking
that
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 first step, you know,
yeah, that's what I've learned. You said a mouthful right there. That's the biggest thing that holds people back is they don't take action, right?
mm,
And I tell people, especially been in the film business and in the sync production music world, you have to take action. You have to act quickly, right? You have to capitalize on opportunity, especially if you have the quality. Then if the quality is there in your work, then yeah, you definitely need to be taking action, making things happen, and moving quickly. So like
mm,
I'm glad you said that because that's one of my biggest things that I preach. I tell people all the time, I want to help so many people, but I can't if you don't take action. Uh,
right,
yeah,
that's
do your part,
that's
and then I can do the rest.
that's it, man. So that's a gem for artists listening. Like, make sure you take that action. You know, just don't be idle. You know, it's like somebody who's just sitting in their house all day and say, "Hey, I want to be
Hmm.
successful." You got to go outside. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
you can't just sit in the crib all day, like you got to take that action. So, whether that be,
Facts.
utilizing the internet to leverage that to your advantage, because that's another thing too. It's like, I think this is the era where artists can really thrive if they know how to
Oh
utilize
yeah.
the tech. Like you got the world
Hmm.
at your fingertips. If you got Instagram, all right, what do you choose to consume, right? Because either you're gonna sit there scrolling, looking at chicks' pictures all day, or you're gonna find some
Yep.
content, that you can leverage to take your career to the next level. So, it's all about choices and time management.
Yes, time management is key. Time management and being intentional, right, and taking action. Those are like my top three things, man. Along with discipline as well. But yeah, you definitely hit it when you said time management. And I tell people too, use money to buy yourself more time because that's what I did when I left my job. I took that 401k money and used that to buy me more time to work on things and investing in myself that I knew in the long run were going to be generating income and the opportunity for generational wealth. So yeah, man, I see people all the time be getting stuck on social media and this and that. I'm like, man, you got to get out, you got to interact, use social
Got
media as a
to,
tool. You
got
gotta use it to showcase your resume or whatever, like, but don't get lost in the sauce scrolling
yeah,
because that can
yeah,
happen.
yeah. That's a whole fact, man. And the thing, like you said, whole sync world I love is that, it's kind of like, when you look at Netflix and let's say like Tyler Perry has a bunch of movies on Netflix, and as
Hmm.
people watch those movies, there's residuals that come along with that back to him. So it's the same thing when you get with companies and the more content you have readily available in these production libraries, when people utilize those songs, you get those residuals coming back to you. So it's a beautiful
Yep.
thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
Like, it's a
sir.
thing. So, I always tell people strategy over emotion. Don't be emotional. Don't go on that emotional roller coaster watching other people win because that puts you in a messed up mind state, right? Where you can sit there, you watch all these people posting on their wins, but everybody don't post their losses too. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So you
That's
don't get
facts.
feel discouraged. Everybody's still trying to run the same race. It's just some people make it look more sexy than others, but behind the scenes, they still struggling like everybody else.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah, absolutely. I tell people I'm very transparent too, especially on Facebook, with a lot of my personal fans and people who've been following me and been around for a long time. I let them know like, yo, y'all, I've been putting in work for a long time and there's been a lot of sleepless nights and I done had so many challenges, like I didn't just get all these placements overnight and these deals and things like that. I'm sending emails. I'm getting no's, but I'm like using no's as motivation. Like, okay, all right. well, where's the next door? Like, you know, I'm knocking on that door, you know. So like, you're absolutely right. I've had, you know, throughout this journey, there's been times where I've invested all my money into my business and been down to like my last $200. And, you know, I keep pushing and keep that faith and keep putting in work. And then, you know, look up, then God bless you with a stack, you know. So it's just like, man, you know, and I tell people, I tell them, you never know when it's gonna happen, right? So when that big break is gonna happen, right? Or that big syndicated placement is gonna happen. Because a lot of people talk about the syndicated placement I have right now with NBA Game Time Show and over the past 2 years. And I was like, man, y'all don't understand. I did that song 4 years prior on the couch, recorded on my iPad. Like, I had no
Wow.
clue. Yeah, like, you know what I'm saying? So it's just like, you gotta trust, believe, and keep putting in work and not get so attached to these records. Because I see a lot of artists, they get attached to records and they want to put them out themselves or whatever the case may be. And it's just like, yo, you could really put that in a library or collab and partner with another company who could bring you more income and more exposure with that record, you know. So yeah, man, it's one of those things where it's just like, you never know, but you definitely got to keep taking action and putting in work and having faith and know that it's going to happen. But yeah, shout out to NBA with that syndicated placement. You know, that was something I feel like I manifested, because getting into the game, it was like, okay, this is my goal. I'm gonna make sure I create something that could be used for a specific brand or show or company, and be a theme song. And now, you know, that's what we're doing now, creating a lot of theme songs for companies and you know, making a name for ourselves doing that as well.
Fire, King. I love it, man. You know,
Yes,
let me ask
sir.
you something. What would you describe your musical style as? You know, some people, you know, like when they look at like J. Cole or Kendrick or Common, they label them as conscious hip hop. You know, you look at artists like you know, T-Bone, The Grits, Lecrae, label them as like Christian rap.
Right,
You know,
right.
he is gangster. You know, Jay-Z, Jeezy, that's hustler, motivational music. What would you label your musical style as?
Yeah, I've never really labeled it. But you know, a lot of people say it's like production music commercial. Like what we know as, you know, sync music typically being commercial music. I get that a lot, you know, even from top producers in the industry that I've worked with. They say, yeah, bro, your music commercial. You got that commercial music, you know. So I'm like, you know, that's cool, you know, and it's, you know, proven to be true. You know, working with Jay White did it early on. You know, he would say that. He would always say, you know, yeah, bro, you real commercial, right? And so I was like, okay, that's, you know, I could hear that. I could see that. And so that's, you know, the route I took. But yeah, I don't really know a label, you know, for it. I'm starting to do this. I do a lot of trailerized hip hop over the past year, and that's my plan and goal for the remainder of 2024, crushing it, putting together at least 12 trailerized hip hop albums. And you know, I'm not really sure what you would, you know, kind of label that as. But that sound, that high energy anthemic um video game trailerized, you know, sound is working, you know, for me. So whatever name, you know, people have already, or what we can come up with that would stand and kind of categorize and label that, I guess that would be, you know, uh, my label, you know, for my sound, like a more trailerized cinematic commercial, you know, sound for the most part.
Yeah, man. Well, I think that speaks volume, because that's dope within itself. The fact that you can't really put what you do into a box. I mean, sound like you got your own lane. You know what I'm saying? And that's an amazing lane to be in, right? You know?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, yeah,
You
for
know?
sure. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, you're right about that.
Yeah. Right? Definitely fire, man. So, all right, so I'm gonna shift gears, man. I do this with a lot of the hip hop artists that come on here, man.
Mhm.
Who's your top five that are alive, man? Favorite MCs, man. Greatest of
Oh
all
yeah, yeah,
time.
yeah. So number one of my favorite has to go to Twista. Highly influenced my
Yeah.
style. Him, Ludacris, Tech Nine, and that's just
Mm-hmm.
because of their lyrical ability,
Mm-hmm.
their articulation, and just creativity when it comes to doing what they do. Definitely J. Cole and Kendrick Lamar. When it comes to all five of them, right? I oftentimes find myself, especially when I get a brief or I'm working on a brief or certain music, wanting to have that impact, right? That shock factor that they give their listeners and audience when they hear their music. People feel a certain way, like they're loyal, diehard fans, like they know what they're gonna get when they listen to Kendrick Lamar, J. Cole. People listening to Twista, Ludacris, Tech Nine, they know, right? I still have, I really have a top 10 because, it goes into Busta
No, yo,
Rhymes. I can't,
keep going,
yeah, yeah,
man. Keep going, dog. Keep going,
yeah.
man.
So, you know what I'm saying? So Busta Rhymes, my guy Jay-Z, of course, up there
Mhm.
as well, right? All of them have had a major, major impact and influence on my style, and who I am as Eclipse Darkness. So, it was pretty much taking all of that and finding my own sound and being able to deliver the impact that all five, seven, eight, 10 of them, delivers in one, and kind of have like a new souped up modern urban style, right? Um, and yeah, yeah, and I think that's pretty much how, Eclipse Darkness came about, because I would listen to all of them and just kind of play with, how they would, create music, but at the same time make sure I had my own identity in doing so.
Yeah, that's fine, man. And lyrically, that's some amazing company, to be in. Because, like Twister coming from the shop, but like you said,
Yep.
his information, his connotation, how he's able to fluctuate his words and just, but still crisp. There's never no
Yeah.
drop off, and he's always in the pocket. Luda with,
Yep.
with such, Luda's just nasty on the mic. You know what I'm saying? Like his
Yeah.
punchlines, his cadence, like, he's like a
It's so
cadence.
animated.
Yes, right. So it's like, it's not like monotone, like he's like, he's gonna take you all over. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? You feel the emotion, the conviction, and yeah, man, Tech Nine, oh man, what a savage. You know what I'm saying? Like
Sheesh.
his
Yeah.
yeah, I mean that guy Ron, man, crazy,
Yeah, that dude's a genius, man. I love what he's done as an independent, artist and just entrepreneur and just businessman in general.
Yeah.
Definitely look up to him, and his impact that he's had on the music culture in general. And he's
Mm.
still killing the game, independent right now. And I think it's remarkable, and definitely feel like he doesn't get a lot of recognition that he should.
Yeah,
So I definitely want to give him his flowers for sure, for sure.
definitely, man. Definitely. So I got two more questions for you, King. The first one is I wanted to ask you. So, um, anybody who's either dead or alive, there's one person that you could kick it with for 1 hour and get
Mhm.
some gems from them. They could be dead or alive. Who would it be and why?
Man, yeah, that's crazy you asked that because oftentimes like I think about this a lot, right? And the answer is my father, right? Because
Mm.
my father passed away 2 years ago, right? Before,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like he passed away, and I felt like, of course, it was just too soon, right? He had a heart attack, and it was before he was able to see. He saw a lot of my accomplishments, of course, but some of the ones that we talked about, happening before he left this earth with us. And of course, like I know he still, sees it now. But if I could have, time back, with him to kind of sit down and just kind of uh, show him and talk to him more about how he impacted, and how his support and always being there, kept me going as an artist, right? Especially in the music. 'Cause that's important. I tell a lot of people, a lot of us we need that support from our parents, especially early on. And him and my mom, they definitely gave that to me, no matter what. He was always posting, sharing my stuff, always into the new music and what I had going on, and talking to everybody about me. And there would be times people would be like, "Yeah, your dad showed me your new music and told me about you, what you're doing, this and that." So, yeah, I would love to have time again with him to kind of show him and talk about some of the new things that have been happening and how he, definitely impacted that. And that we still pushing and gonna continue to do this for him. But yeah, for sure, for sure.
That's amazing, man. And rest in peace to your pops, man. And his legacy lives on through you, right?
Yeah.
Because
yes, sir.
that's what happens a lot of times. Like my mom, she passed from breast cancer, and I feel the same way, right? It's like a lot of times you kind of feel like you were robbed, right? It's like you had this amazing person in your life, and it's like they're going too soon, and it's like, why? What was the reason behind that? But ultimately, it's like the lesson was you were able to experience someone that was such a positive force in your life, and it's like, you know what I'm saying? And we honor them by paying it forward with the good works that we do, with all the values that they instilled in us. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And I still wanted to give back, what I'm saying? Be able to be like, dang, now I can buy my dad a house, do things like that. I could drop off, a couple racks, for my dad, just to give back, since they supported me for so long, being able to turn around and then do, for my family. So, now I'm making sure, I get to that with my mom, before she leaves this earth. And, so I won't, because that's one thing that I do, wish I had the opportunity to do. Although I did, do some things here and there for my dad. But you know what I'm talking about when we get to the real bag, where it's like we can buy our parents a house, and they can be taken care of, to repay back those 18 years they took care of us, So that's pretty much, where I'm at now. One of my whys and reasons why I push so hard, taking care of the family, my daughter, being able to get back, to my mom.
Mm-hmm. Nah, most definitely, man. Most definitely, man. That's important, and to speak value to that too is like generational wealth, right? It's like being able to position ourselves with the next generation always has more, and we able to reach back to and help out those that helped us. So that's all facts, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All facts, man. All facts. So to ask this question too, man, we ask everybody on the show this question, man. And that question is, what is the mantra for Eclipse Darkness? So like I got two for me personally. The first one is persistence wins down resistance. So always having that mental fortitude that no matter what happens in life, that you constantly push forward. You don't allow things to get you down. Humans got natural emotion. So naturally we might be frustrated, but we don't wallow in that. We always stay persistent to wear down that resistance. And of course, the second one, collaboration is greater than competition. So what would you say is a mantra of yours that kept you going? And even if it don't rhyme, because when I ask people that question, like, damn, man, like yours rhyme, mine don't rhyme.
Yeah. Nah, that's dope. That's dope. Yeah,
so,
I like those.
You know what I mean? So what would you say for you, brother?
Well, for sure, I can say music is my life. Life is my music has been one for me. And that's to always remind myself, right, that and throughout my music and in my music that I'm sharing my story and sharing my life, right, to always keep it, 100 and be genuine, with the story that I tell, because I know that my music is going to live forever. And it's just a way for people to remember me, when I'm dead and gone, I pass on. for people to remember me and still be able to connect with me through my music. So yeah, that's mine for sure, for sure. And I think has always been, will be, you know, for the rest of my life. Music is my life. Life is my music. Continuing to tell my story and talk about my life through my music.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I love that, brother. I love that, man. I
So
love that. Means a lot. And like you said, you know, I think musicians don't realize a lot of times, it's like the music that we create is basically like an audio journal, right? Years from
yeah,
now, you know what I'm saying? Like,
it
and
really
I
is.
you know what I'm saying? It's important to be cognizant of that because, you know, just as a man, you know, just as legacy building, right? It's like, all
Hmm.
right, with that audio journal, 100 years from now, what are people going to think about you as a man or as a woman
Hmm.
when they listen to the art that you put out there for the world? You know, will they be able to look at it and say, wow, you know, this person was actually about something, or, you know, kind of questionable, right? So that's
Yep.
important. Be cognizant of that, you know?
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. Because I put a lot of gems and game in my music, even in the sync music. You know, if
Mhm.
people pay attention and listen, you know, I talk about a lot of important things and a lot of information, even navigating the business to help people. You know, if they really sit down and think about it without trying to be too loud about it. You know, it's like, hey, let me put it in the music, and you just gotta pay attention, take note, and apply it.
Definitely, definitely, King, man. This was fire, man. We had a lot of gems in here, man. You
Yes,
know what I'm saying?
sir. Yes, sir.
This was the jewelry store with all the gems. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah,
And
yeah.
yo, quick question, bro, because this is another
Um.
question I have for you. What does your chain represent? Because I see it has like a heart
Oh yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah.
broken. What does that symbolize?
Yeah. So that represents and symbolizes a project I put together about a life experience that I had called Love Language, and it's
Okay.
basically about the relationship that didn't work out with me and my daughter's mother, and it was, I feel, you know, it was due to um, a lack of addressing childhood trauma,
Mm,
learning to love yourself properly
mm,
so that you can love others properly. And
mm.
so I did a whole project, and that was the logo and representation for it, and it was called Love Language. And so I went on a whole mission and campaign, encouraging individuals to apply those three things, and learn their love language as well as their partner's love language so that they can love each other properly. And that will help encourage and increase um, relationships to last longer and keep families together.
Wow, man, that's powerful, man. That's really powerful, and that's deep what you said too, because you know ultimately what people don't realize is that you know childhood traumas a lot of times those things manifest. You might not be cognizant of it, but
Hmm.
things you see from childhood that affects you, and that's really what plays a part in who you become ultimately, right? Because one or two things,
Absolutely.
it's either as an individual, you say, all right, you know what, I saw this in my childhood, and I'm going to break this generational curse. I'm not going to repeat the same cycle, or
Facts.
pretty much become the same thing in a different form, and you repeat that in different ways. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? So
Yes,
that's
sir.
powerful. That's powerful, man. You know that, and people need to be aware of that, man. That's very commendable. You know.
Yeah, thank you, King. Yeah, we're definitely going to push that campaign again as well as we continue to elevate. You know, and our platform continues to grow, and you know, at the right time. And I think, you know, just of course for the rest of my life, I'm going to continue to, you know, communicate that. But you know, you have to ease people into things and present things a certain way so that it's more receptive and impactful, and you get, you know, the response that you want, you know, people, and to be sure that they take away from it what you intend for them to take away from it.
Yeah, that's a fact. You know, and like you said before, knowledge is power, and being aware. Because you know, one more thing that I'll say about that too is that a lot of times when people grow up in these environments, unfortunately, what happens is that because they're used to that, then that becomes
Hmm.
the norm. Now, whether it's toxic or whether it's healthy, both become the norm, right? Because if you grew up in a household and you saw your mother respecting your father, that's your norm. If you grew up in a household and you saw your father beating on your mother, that becomes your norm, right? So it's
Right.
like, you know, determining what's healthy and what's not. So that's amazing work, brother. That's definitely needed, man. You know?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, appreciate that, King.
Definitely, man. So tell all the people out there, man, how can they connect with you, or give them your socials, all of that.
Yeah. Woo! You already know what it is. It's your boy Eclipse Darkness, man. Y'all can follow me on all platforms. Eclipse Darkness. That's ECLIPSE space DARKNESS. On Instagram is where I'm most active, so y'all tap in with me there at the official Eclipse. That's the @ sign, the official Eclipse, and y'all can check in with your boy. Oh, I like that.
Yeah, much respect to my brother from another mother, Eclipse, man. Yo, shout out to him, man. Shout out to all the dope things he got going on. We definitely gonna build. Shout out to all the listeners, man. We appreciate y'all as always, man. Keep striving for greatness. And until next week,